Hi, welcome to Fantastic Feast. I'm your host, Thuy Phan. Today I'm going to show you a dish that is super simple to make, but also something that is healthy and something that you can order at the restaurants, but something you can make at home. So I always prefer to do it at home if I can do it myself. So it's chicken with ginger scallion sauce, and that may sound super simple, but it's really all in the sauce. Obviously, it's just you are boiling a chicken, but what's really great about it is you can use the chicken broth to make other dishes. You can use it to make the rice that will add extra chicken flavor to it, or you can save the broth for another time and use it for a hot pot. But I love that nothing really goes to waste, and it's a simple weeknight meal. It consists of scallions, ginger, garlic, some salt and pepper and olive oil, and just a splash of soy sauce, and then it's so savory and so delicious. Right now I have a pot of water on to boil, about 5 quarts of water. We'll put the chicken in once the water starts boiling, but what we need is some scallions. This is already washed. I'm gonna do this, cut off the ends. And you don't have to have too fine of a chop because this will go into the food processor, but it makes the job for the food processor a little easier. And actually, I figured out how to make the sauce because when I used to go to the Chinese restaurants and they would have the roasted duck or steamed boiled chicken with the ginger sauce, they would give you so little, and that was like my favorite part of it. And so I tried to do it at home myself, and I realized it was super easy to make, and I can have unlimited amounts of that sauce, and it really punches up just a very plain chicken dish. I have an onion because I like to char the onion and add it to the boiling water so that my broth is a lot sweeter, and that I can make a double use of it. So I'll show you this. And for me, most of my broths or anything that I have that I make that is soup based, I always char the onion and add it in there. It's kind of a trick of the pho making process, but you can do it to any type of soup base, and I think it always is always a winner. We'll save that for later. And then you need about, I'm making a lot of sauce so that the thing is it also keeps pretty well in the refrigerator if you make the base. So I have about 10 cloves of garlic here. You can do half of that if you want, but I am a supreme garlic lover, so I don't mind extra garlic. And here we have ginger. You need about, I would say like 2 of these, and that should be plenty. And you want to peel the ginger. Some people use the back of a spoon, but I feel okay using a knife. So you gotta peel it and then chop it. Ginger is kind of knobby, but it is a staple in a lot of Asian dishes. Adds a lot of flavor. I kind of like that these recipes are not entirely so strict and stringent for it to taste good. It's kind of, you know, a little bit lenient so that you have a general idea and can stick to it. And while I boil this chicken, you can also steam it if you're a fan of the steaming method. But I like to boil this because I can get broth out of it and have more than one use. Once I've peeled the ginger, I like to just cut it into thin slices just to aid it in the food processor so it's not grinding up some giant chunks. This is all you need for the sauce, and I think the water is boiling now, so we'll put the chicken in and let it boil for about 20 to 30 minutes, just checking it periodically to make sure that it's cooked. And then while we're waiting for that, we'll make the sauce, and then that's all there is to it. So let's go over there and put our chicken over into our water. Now that I have the chicken in the water to boil, in the meantime, what I'm going to show you how to do is how to make the sauce, and it's super simple. I've already chopped up the scallions, the ginger, and part of the garlic, and basically what you'll need is just the food processor. I have a mini one that works just as well as a big one. Makes life a lot easier. And I will even give this a little bit more of a chop, and it'll be fine. Okay, so I'll add half garlic, A little bit more. And then scallions. Okay, make sure it's cooked. And then we will chop. Here we go. It makes a little bit of noise, but it does all the work for you, so. I like to add a little bit of salt at this point. Some pepper. And just a splash of oil just to make it a little bit easier for it to grind. And your sauce is done. This is the consistency that you're looking for. You want it kind of pretty mushed up so that you can't see any huge chunks, but not super fine so that you have some texture left. I'm going to scoop it out into a bowl, and then when you're ready to serve this dish, all you will do is just add more olive oil and then some soy sauce to it, and then just some pepper, and then that's your sauce. But it is so good with the chicken. It's just a perfect complement. So let me scoop that into a bowl. Anytime I do any type of broth, I always char an onion to add to it, just to give it some depth. And even though this is a chicken, kind of a boiled chicken, I do like to make the broth flavorful because I do save it to make a broth that I could use later on. About 3 tablespoons. And if you want to do just a plain boil without all of this extra stuff, that's totally fine too. Number 1, and you will need a cleaver or a very sharp knife. I have 2 here, but I mean you only need 1, but just in case this doesn't do the job, I have this one. So there, you want to, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do this, but generally I like to keep the parts separated. We have our Okay, that was the first cut. Oh, I'm kind of good at this. Okay, so half, and then this is our leg, okay, this is our chicken breast. Well, that wasn't too bad. I feel like I murdered a chicken, but it's all for a very delicious meal. So basically I have it plated here, and what I'll do is show you how to make the sauce and finish it up and how to serve it. And then I also cooked some nice brown rice to go with this. This is a nice, really hearty meal, and traditionally people eat it with white rice, and you can cook, use the chicken broth to make the white rice so you have an extra chicken flavor. I did brown rice, so it's a little bit healthier than the white rice. So let me just wash my hands and finish it up. Okay, so you have the sauce paste that you made earlier. I call it a paste, but it's a little bit chunkier. And the way that I like to serve it is each person gets their own little dish. and super easy. I think anybody can make this. While the chicken is cooking, I'll show you how to make a dessert that is absolutely one of my favorite desserts, and one that is definitely a crowd pleaser. I don't know if you've ever been to New York, but there is a very famous restaurant there called Momofuku Milk Bar, and this is their crack pie. I've modified it a little bit so it's not as sweet as the original, but this crack pie is insanely good. And the reason why they call it crack pie is because it's so addicting. People say it's just like crack, so there's no actual crack in there. It's just a reference, and I make this dessert all the time, and every single one of my friends, they always ask for it, so I know it's a hit. The reason why I like to make it, even though it's not hard, but it's definitely a 2 or 3 step process, and I know a lot of times we want to make things that are easy, and anything that looks too hard, we don't want to try it, but this is something that I tried, and it's a recipe that I love. The thing is, when you buy this crack pie, the entire pie costs between $40 and $50, and that's kind of a lot for a pie, I think. Something that you can make at home for less than $10. So, and something that you can bring to a party, and it's always a hit, and people think you're awesome because you know how to make this pie that's so good. So I'll show you how to make the crust first for this, and then while the crust is baking, we'll make the filling. What you need for this is some oatmeal. It's 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons. Half a cup of all-purpose flour. Then you also need 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda and also 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. You also need 1 egg, and then you also need 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then 6 tablespoons of butter. There is actually, the original recipe calls for a little bit more sugar, but I cut it down a little bit just because it can be a very sweet dessert, but it tastes really good with tea. So we'll bring this over to our mixer. You use the paddle attachment. So basically it's like a cookie oat crust, and we'll start with that, and while it's baking, we'll make the filling. And then once the crust is done baking, then we will add the filling and then put in our crack pie in the oven, and then about 40 minutes it's going to be perfect and ready for you. So let's bring this over there. So now that we are over here by my trusty KitchenAid mixer, it's probably one of the best investments I've ever made. I've had this for about 10 years, and it just makes baking so much easier. We're going to make the cookie crust for this crack pie, and this is an essential part of this pie, and it's so delicious. So what we'll start with is some butter and sugar, and we're going to cream that together, and then we'll add the oats and all that other good stuff afterwards. And then to this I'll add 1 egg. Then I'll add 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. And then 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. And then 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then to this, half a cup of all-purpose flour. 3/4 of a cup of oats. Make sure it's the old-fashioned kind, not the quick cut. Okay. So this is a little bit more time consuming because you have to bake this cookie crust, and then afterwards you have to put it into the food processor to make into a kind of a crumb crust. And then you make the filling, but it's definitely worth it. So yum. So then what you want to do next is spread it. $350. So while we have the cookie oat crust in the oven, I'll show you how to make the filling. And this one will require a whisk attachment. So change into that. What you'll need is half a cup of brown sugar, half a cup of white sugar, or granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon of non-fat dry milk powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we'll start mixing that together. Just let it whisk together. Melted butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll add 4 yolks. And then also to this, you add 6.5 tablespoons of heavy cream. Okay. And after you have a really smooth, beautiful consistency like this, it just looks gorgeous. And that's your filling. It's super easy. But as you can tell, this is not a low-fat dessert because it's butter, heavy cream, and egg yolks, and a lot of sugar, but it's so worth the calories. So we will let this sit until the oat cookie crumble is ready, and then you're pretty much done. So it's just assembling at this point. Our cookie crust is just about ready, so I'm gonna take it out and finish up this pie and get it in the oven so that we can get our dessert going. Oh, ooh, perfect. Yum. Oops. So this is a perfectly golden brown cookie crust that we're looking for. You could eat this as a giant cookie if you want. It's totally delicious on its own, but this will form the base of our crack pie, which I use a pie tin or a tart tin to cook it in. So you'll need a mini food processor again to do this. And basically what I'll do is I'm gonna take this cookie and then put it in here, add some butter to it, and then crumble it up, and then it becomes our base. So, and if you have a big food processor, you could do this in one shot, but I have a little one, so I do this in 2 settings, and it works fine for me. Remember that butter that we had set aside, we'll add this in there too, just to help it mush up. And something that I've been adding recently is just a little sprinkle of cinnamon. Hit it and just push it up. And you pulse it up until it's crumbs like this, almost like a graham cracker crumb, but this is an oat cookie crumb that you made yourself. And then you just dump it in here and do that again with the rest of it, and forming the crust of the sides. Yum, yum, yum. Close enough. Then you take your filling that you had made earlier, it almost looks like a caramel. And you just tap it. The oven. Oh. Good stuff. Ooh. Oh, it's so beautiful and brown. Let me show you what it should look like. Basically, what you want to do after this is let it cool. And then once it's cooled down, you sift confectioner's sugar over it and then you serve it. I find that the crack pie tastes even better after you've refrigerated it and let it cool down. The flavors just meld in, but you can eat it warm as well. I like to serve it with a slice of strawberry just to cut the sweetness, but finish it up. This was not a very hard dish to make, but I guarantee you everybody who eats it will love it. And it's something kind of different. You're kind of used to a different type of pie that has either a lot of fruit fillings and so forth, but this one, I mean, they don't call it crack pie for nothing, so I bet once you have a slice, you'll probably want more than just one and continue to make it for your friends and family. So take a slice and show you how I serve it and eat it. It's perfect. Yum. I definitely hope you try this pie because I guarantee you that everybody you feed it to is gonna like it. Takes a little bit of a few steps, but it's definitely worth it. Hopefully you try both these dishes, one healthy and one not so healthy, but really good. Hopefully you join us next time for a fantastic feast. Thanks for joining us.